We have a serious injury update for Chris Boucher, as it looks like his knee injury could keep him out for the rest of the season. So we'll discuss that, including RJ Barrett speaking out after his big performance against the Denver Nuggets, a former recent Toronto Raptor retiring, and a look at this year's tankathon here now at this point, because the Raptors are in a tight race. But before we dive into that, again, over 55% of our viewers are not subscribed to the channel, and we want to keep you up to date with all of the latest Toronto Raptors news. So make sure if you want to stay up to date with this team, because it should be a fun close to the season. I know not a lot of people are watching the games now at this point, but if you want to keep up to what's going on regarding the Toronto Raptors, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. But let's dive into the news. Let's dive into what's been going on. And the first one is unfortunate, because Chris Boucher seems like he has a serious injury, according to reports. Now, following the game 2 nights ago against the Portland Trailblazers, Chris Boucher, made a heroic sort of finish and ended up injuring himself, in that game-saving play, down to close out that game against the Portland Trailblazers. So we weren't sure what the injury was, how bad it was going to be, what's going on, but we did hear that further tests are coming. And basically, the details are now mostly out regarding Chris Boucher. Essentially, he sustained a partial tear to the medial collateral ligaments of the MCL in his right knee and on his game-tying bucket at the end of regulation in Saturday's overtime loss in Portland. He'll undergo further assessment by specialists, Toronto Raptors reports say. So basically, a partial tear in his MCL. And as someone that has partially torn their MCL, along with my ACL, meniscus, and all that type of stuff, that is a serious injury. That sucks. Hopefully, he's able to sort of recover quickly and be fine. And, partial tears generally, you don't necessarily need surgery. There's different ways to approach it. There's different ways to really see how it goes. And basically, more reports, further updates have come out saying that Boucher has told Michael Grange that his right knee wasn't right when he woke up Sunday morning and felt loose to him. And as someone that has torn his ACL in his left knee 7 years ago, he knows he's experienced with knee injuries. Basically, he thought it was just bruised after he got tangled up with Trailblazers Matisse Thybulle. Boucher made the game-tying tip-in less than a second left in regulation, but further examination showed a tear. Although the good news is that surgery will not be required. Still, it's hard to imagine Boucher returning this season with just 17 games left. He'll join Pirtle and Barnes, the Raptors' third potentially season-ending injury suffered this month. So basically, good news that Boucher doesn't need surgery according to right now. Again, partial tears, it's sometimes the right move to have surgery, it sometimes isn't. Again, I'm not a doctor, but I have had serious knee injuries before, so I kind of know this space. And again, you want to avoid surgery when you can, but if it's going to fix things up, it'll probably increase recovery time, but obviously the body can heal itself if it's just a partially torn thing there. So good news along those lines, but bad news that he's likely out for the rest of the season. And it sucks because the end of this season was really the time for Chris Boucher to redeem his value after not being in the lineup, not being in the rotation for a very long time. And he was putting up some big games, having some big moments, proving why he's a hustle energy player that can get some buckets. The things that he was doing for years for the Toronto Raptors, reestablish that, reaffirm that. So teams are interested in him in the offseason for the Raptors' sake and for his own, because I don't want him to be a guy who's just buried on the bench during the prime of his career here now at this point. So hopefully he has a speedy recovery. Again, regardless if it's partially torn, fully torn, whatever, if you're tearing your MCL, that just sucks. It's a serious injury. So I don't want the Raptors to rush him back. I hope he doesn't do anything crazy, trying to redeem his value and get back during the Raptors' kind of hopeless stretch to end out this year. But again, wishing the best for Chris Boucher. But next thing we're taking a look at is RJ Barrett reveals truth on his performance last night, because as we saw from the reports going into last night's game against the Denver Nuggets, RJ Barrett was sick, and he said it to Darko Rajakovic. Basically, he said, but unfortunately the Raptors couldn't keep it going, and the Raptor who hit the floor above all heads. Basically, the quotes there at the end: "I gave you everything I had," to coach Darko Rajakovic when he later saw him moving slowly down the hall of the Ball Arena, despite being under the weather. Basically went on to say, "It's obviously a great first half of the Toronto Raptors. Everyone was into it, and we knew the second half that they were going to be more aggressive, and I think they just showed their championship pedigree with the way that they responded." So again, RJ Barrett, happy with his performance. He left it all out there on the line. And I don't know, I made a video this morning really gassing up RJ Barrett. I'm sad I missed this quote, so I just wanted to toss it into this video because, he put up that big night, that big performance against the league's best team. while under the weather, giving it all he had, as he said to Darko Rajakovic in big minutes. All the Raptors are depleted. You love seeing that from RJ Barrett out there. The Raptors' current #1 star, with Scottie Barnes out of the lineup. But next thing we're taking a look at is a recent former Toronto Raptor ended up retiring pretty surprisingly, because Otto Porter Jr. is a guy that obviously was highly hyped. A lot of people were extremely excited, including myself, when he was brought into the Toronto Raptors after winning a championship with the Golden State Warriors just a season ago, right? Not this offseason, but the offseason prior. Again, barely played last year, but there was hope that maybe, a year of rest, guys dealt with some injuries, maybe he could come into this year. Again, the Raptors still had OG, still had Pascal, still some vets on this team with hopes of winning some games. Otto Porter Jr. could be an asset off the bench. And then he played in some games, he was in the lineup, he was out the lineup, but from everything we heard, from Otto's camp, and stuff, basically we heard that Otto Porter Jr. was healthy and ready to go. He was ready to play. So it was weird, and there was criticism thrown the way of Darko Rajakovic in terms of why Otto Porter Jr. wasn't playing, especially when the Raptors were trying to compete. Well, I guess that posturing that came out wasn't true. It's basically Otto Porter Jr. has announced his retirement today. Obviously he was traded to the Utah Jazz at this year's trade deadline, saying that for the past 11 years, I've had the chance to live my lifelong dream of playing in the NBA. And that dream was capped by winning an NBA championship. Unfortunately, my body is not allowing me to play at the level I expect of myself, and I have therefore decided to retire. So, again, sucks for a guy that, is a two-way guy. The play defense was really good for that Golden State Warriors season where he won an NBA championship. So it sucks that he has to retire early due to injuries, due to everything that's been going on. But I'm surprised by it, because when he was traded to the Utah Jazz, every report that came out indicated Otto Porter Jr. is healthy and ready to play. So again, maybe he's just disappointed with his level of production rather than his ability to produce and all those types of things. But I don't know, just a little bit surprising. Caught me off guard that he ended up retiring, but I guess maybe the writing was on the wall when he wasn't bought out prior to the deadline in order for him to be picked up by a playoff eligible team. So Otto Porter Jr., wishing you the best in retirement, even though your tenure with the Toronto Raptors wasn't great. It's seemed like a good locker room guy. So always will have respect for Otto Porter Jr. Last thing we're taking a look at is a little Toronto Raptors tankathon update, because the Memphis Grizzlies are doing their thing out here. Jaren Jackson Jr., they're sitting him. I'm not sure what the plan is with Desmond Bane, but as everyone knows, the Raptors are trying to pursue, some Jalen McDaniels minutes with some, interesting lineup changes, and obviously with all the injuries that aren't controlled by the Toronto Raptors, they're trying to get that their draft pick for this season. And right now, there's a couple updates. Basically, the Toronto Raptors, again, we're separating ourselves from the Brooklyn Nets in terms of getting to the bottom of the standings. The Pacers are also a team that it's going to be tough for the Bulls to catch them, but the Miami Heat are a squad that could potentially jump on. They're eighth. Then, if Miami has home court, that will be a tough game for the Pacers to win. And then it's one game for them to potentially enter the lottery. So that Pacers draft pick that we have is definitely still valuable. But the Memphis Grizzlies are the team that we're trying to catch out there in the tankathon standings. And they've benched Jaren Jackson Jr. as of late, which might be tough. But the Raptors are on a 4-game losing streak now. We'll see. We'll see if we're able to catch either the Grizzlies or the Portland Trail Blazers. Again, a game back of the Grizzlies in terms of losing games to get to that sixth pick, which would increase our odds of maintaining our draft pick. And then also the Portland Trail Blazers, who currently they've lost one game after beating the Toronto Raptors. It's going to be tough unless Delano Banton completely changes the tune there, and the Raptors continue to lose games. 4.5 games back at the Portland Trail Blazers. So that's your daily tankathon update. But folks, you guys have best been this far. Subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. I'm signing out. Cheers.